Hi parents, this is teacher David. I came across this question that was being asked by one of the parents over in Facebook, and I did offer some hints earlier on how to solve the question. And yeah, the student or the parents have yet to get back to me whether they can solve the question. So out of goodwill, I decided to do this video to show my video solution of this question. So without further ado, let me just go right straight to this question. Okay, this question is actually not that complicated. Okay, I mentioned in my Facebook comments that you can actually use trigonometric identity to substitute away your cos square x or your sin square x to get another corrected equation. So let's say 4a. Okay, let's see 4a. Okay, 4a, you have 4 cosine square plus 2 sine square is equal to 3. And you know that one of your trigonometric identity, your sine square x plus cosine square x is equal to 1. So let's say if I have to substitute my cos square x with 1 minus sine square x, you would have 4 1 minus sine square x plus 2 sine square x is equal to 3. So you see, while you do away the substitution, right, because your cos square x is equal to 1 minus sine square x, you can actually substitute your cos square x with 1 minus sine square x. You'll end up with 4 minus 4 sine square x plus 2 sine square x is equal to 3. So here you have minus 4 plus 2 is equal to minus 2. Then after that, if I were to shift my 2 sine square x over to the other side, you have 4 minus 3 equal to 2 sine square x. So 4 minus 3 is 1. So your 2 sine square x is equal to 1. Therefore, your sine square x will then be equal to half. Sine x will then be equal to square root of half. So square root of half, if your sine x is equal to square root of half, square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 2 is square root of 2. But since this is a square root function, you have a negative component. So your sine x will then be equal to square root of 2 over 2 or negative square root of 2 over 2. Because when you multiply 1 over root 2, you multiply by root 2 over root 2, you will have root 2 over 2. Okay? So multiply by square root 2 over square root 2 is essentially you're multiplying it by 1. So 1 times square root 2 is square root 2. Square root 2 times square root 2 is 2. So you end up with square root 2 over 2. So you have your plus and minus for your sine x. So your x will then be equal to sine inverse square root 2 over 2. So this will be the basic angle. So sine inverse square root 2 over 2. You will then have 45 degrees. So 45 degrees is your basic angle. So if your basic angle is 45 degrees and x is between 0 to 360, and you have plus and minus, therefore it's all the 4 quadrants are involved. So if the basic angle is 45 degrees, and the second quadrant will be 180 minus 45 degrees. 180 minus 45 degrees is 135 degrees. Or 180 plus 45, that's 225 degrees. And 360 minus 45 degrees, you have 315 degrees. So all the four quadrants are involved for part A. So I hope you are clear about part A. So let's move on to part B. Okay, part B, you have your secant x plus tangent square x equal to -5. So you will have, let me change the font to the yellow font so it's clearer. So you have 5 secant x plus tangent square x is equal to -5. Okay, so you just now, if you can recall your trigo identity, your sine square x plus cosine square x is 1. And your tangent square x plus 1 is secant square x. And also your 1 plus cotangent square x is cosecant square x. So these are the three trigonometric identity you need to be aware of. Yeah. So this three trigonometric identity is not that hard to derive, and I did show it in my YouTube videos or my videos, so you can take a look at it. So, okay, let's back to the question. Excuse me. So you have your tangent square x will then be equal to secant square x minus 1. So I can substitute away my tangent square x with secant square x. Excuse me. So your tangent square x so your tangent square x, you can substitute with secant square x minus 1. Okay, this whole chunk is your tangent square x. And you can rearrange. You have secant square x plus 5 secant x plus 4 equal to 0. Minus 5 I bring over is plus 5. 5 minus 1 is 4. So I have secant square x plus 5 secant x plus 4 equal to 0. So if you have to factorize this, okay, another way to look at this is your secant x is your y. Okay, so to make things simple, you can let secant x be your y. Okay. If you are aware what you're doing, you can straight away just write secant x multiplied by secant x. You factorize, you have 4 and 1. Okay, when you factorize, you have this. You have secant x plus 1 and secant x plus 4. This is after you factorize, you get this. Another way to look at this is you let your y be secant x. So this will become y squared plus 5y plus 4 equal to 0. You can do how you usually solve the corrected equation. So this is y plus 1 and y plus 4 equal to 0. Okay, so you end up as secant x plus 1 and secant x plus 4 is 0 because your y is your secant x. Okay. So your secant x will then be equal to -1, or secant x will then be equal to -4. So secant x apparently is your 1 over cosine x equal to -1. So 1 over cosine x is equal to -4. So your cosine x will then be -1/4. Your cosine x will then still be -1. Okay, cosine x will still be -1 in this case. So your x will then be equal to shift cosine -1. You will have 180. Then this one, x. Okay, this one you have your basic angle. Your basic angle is cosine inverse 1/4. So cosine inverse 1/4, you have 75.5. Okay, that's your basic angle. And since it's at the negative, right? So it's at the second or third quadrant. So your x, right, if it's a second quadrant, will be 180 minus 75.5, or third quadrant will be 180 plus 75.5. Okay, so the final answer would then be equal to 180 minus 75.5. You will have 104.5, or 180 plus 75.5, you will have 255.5. So therefore your x would be 180 degrees, 104.5, or 255.5. Yeah. So I hope I answer your question. So if you have any queries or issues, you can WhatsApp me at 9795-1295. I'm teacher David Ng, and yeah, I'll love to help you further. So yeah, I wish you all the best in your AMAX endeavor. So that's all for today. Thank you. Bye-bye.